So, Ricky, you might
Yeah.
know this. You might not.
Mm. Mm.
Obviously, I collect Amiibo. I'm sure you know that
Do
part,
you?
right?
Do
I mean, on my
you?
desk, I have what I got the Dark Souls one right here. Got the Loot Goblin Amiibo. I mean, I have
Hmm.
every Amiibo that's ever existed. But last year, I made it my personal goal to make it to a complete North American Nintendo 64 collection. And I'm
Ooh.
happy to report, as of
Hmm.
today, I have reached the halfway point. Thank you. I'm very, very excited.
What what was the lucky game?
The lucky game, what was it actually? It was Star Wars Episode 1 Racer.
Hey, I actually rented that a bunch of times.
It's a
It's
good game.
surprisingly fun.
It's a
Yeah.
really, really good game.
Hmm.
So I'm going to kind of go over my rules and regulations for collecting.
Please.
I'll put up a bigger picture of the collection at some point too. I have kind of a letterboxed image of it. My rules for collecting are I will never pay eBay prices for a
Hmm.
game.
Right on.
That is a fact. So, for the most part, everything you see in this collection so far, I've purchased for well below MSRP.
Right on.
Maybe not MSRP, just what eBay prices are at the moment.
What you'd expect to pay in today's environment.
Very true. So, I mean, I
Okay.
have like Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Right.
I think that was the most I spent on anything, but I paid well below what it should
Right.
have gone for.
And
But
that
for the
makes
most
sense for
part,
Conquer.
I go to like Goodwill a lot.
Hmm.
I go to like retro game stores that are having sales. I trade stuff in. I go to yard sales, rummage sales, flea markets, and I try to
Hmm.
pick up most of them there. And I would say about 75% of this collection I've gotten for under like $3 a game. Even some of the
Right
bigger
on.
ones on here I've been able to pull off for like $3 a game. Some of the more
Hmm.
expensive ones were gifted to me. So for
Right.
Christmas, my mother-in-law picked up Mario Party 3 for me, which was great.
Well, that's a good one.
For my wedding, TJ got me a bunch of games, which was super
Hmm.
nice. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, this has been just kind of a fun undertaking. It's been just kind of rewarding. I mean, I grew up with Nintendo, and Nintendo 64
Hmm.
came out when I was 10. So, I mean,
Right.
it was kind of like my little kind of prepubescent brain was kind of just forming at that point.
Hmm.
And it just, N64 is the stuff that really sticks with me. And I
Right
think
on.
the Amiibo collecting got me ready for what kind of undertaking this is. But there's
Hmm.
some crazy hard to find games. For
Oh, I
sure.
know. Like Sculptor's Cut, I
Sculptor's
know
Cut.
is yeah.
For sure.
Hmm.
So, I mean, for the most part, I mean, it's been pretty fun.
Right.
I'm at the point right now where it's near impossible for me to find a game I don't own in the wild. For the
Hmm.
most part, when you go to like a rummage sale or Goodwill, it's all sports games. It's all like the
Yeah.
really cheap stuff that people just kind of like gloss over. And
Hmm.
at this point, I have all of that crap. So, I mean, all the
Lucky
crappy
you.
sports games I have.
You have NBA 20 or not 20 1997.
I have more Madden games than I can count. I have more NBA games, NHL games. I mean, you name it, I have it.
Hey, what is it? WrestleMania 2000 is fun though.
That is very true. I mean, I grew up
Yeah.
with like I was a huge WWF fan, so all the
Ooh,
N64 like
okay.
WWF Attitude, No
Hmm.
Mercy, WrestleMania 2000 was the best because it had like the music.
And it had the music and it had the character creator was a lot
Yeah.
of fun. I remember. Yeah, played that a lot with my brother.
But now that I've kind of gone this far, I kind of wanted to have like kind of a topic during this
Hmm.
newscast about collecting.
Sure.
Because I mean, I've been collecting Amiibo now for some time. And like I said before, this is a very different beast. With Amiibo at this point, they're brand new. So you just
Right.
pre-order them, they ship them to your house and you're good to go. With this stuff, it's all stuff that's 20 plus years old. So it's much,
Mm.
much more complicated. So I'm really curious to see, number one, your thoughts on collecting. What do you
Hmm.
collect? I mean, because for me,
Gotcha.
again, I think it's just two very different beasts for what I'm collecting right
Hmm.
now.
Sounds good. Well, probably one of the more recent things I can think of collecting was back when this is when I got my first debit card. That was probably the first thing I started doing.
Yeah.
Was just buying old games that I missed out on, or like N64 ones I had loaned to people and then didn't have them. So I'm like, I can finally replace my Banjo-Kazooie that my neighbor took.
Ooh.
Or I can, right? Just stuff like that. So I ended up down that rabbit hole pretty hard, just getting stuff for N64 was the big one, but
Yeah.
even Game Boy Advance, original Game Boy, stuff like that. And I used to work at a video game shop, so every now and then they would bring in stuff that they wanted to sell, but it's like, yeah, unfortunately, we're not really going to give you much for that.
Yeah.
But then it's just like, okay, well, I'm just going to leave these here because they're just gathering dust, and just like, well, I'll be taking those then. Thank you very much, and you have a wonderful day, sir.
There you go.
So, right, like I think I got every Mega Man Zero game once because someone just didn't want them anymore.
Wow.
Like extra copies of, I have like 5 copies of Pokemon Blue.
Yeah.
Just because like there's the one I got, one that I was like, oh, my brother's not playing this anymore. My cousin gave me one, just stuff like that, and situations like that. Amiibo was definitely something that I got into like really hard. Thanks to a little site called Amiibo News, I was able to get a lot of them. Yeah, it was before we really even met. I was still following and just managed to get pretty much everything I wanted via you, now that I think about it.
Perfect.
Yeah, like, let's see, past that, I haven't really done much with the current Amiibo environment. Like, I passed on Wolf,
Yeah.
but I got Ridley because to me, Ridley was a big deal for Ridley to be in Smash. So at this point, it's more of like I'm picking and choosing. So I feel like that's a different sort of mindset than what you're talking about,
Yeah,
though.
I mean, it is. I mean,
if
at
I
this
had to
point,
go with-
though, I mean, Amiibo collecting, like I said before, it's just a completely different beast.
Right.
Game collecting is something I've kind of dabbled with now for about 10 years. I go to a lot of flea markets. I think Pat the NES Punk with his Flea Market Madness show, if anybody's ever seen that, he used to go to flea markets all the time and just kind of get anything gaming related, show you what it's worth and what he paid for it. So that kind of inspired me to go out and, you know, find all these games that over the years I either A, owned and sold, or B, just never had the chance to pick up. But it's very, very difficult nowadays to find anything video game related, specifically Nintendo related, at a decent price. And that it's really rough because people see Nintendo and they're like, well, this has to be worth a whole bunch of money. I was at this antique store today with my daughter looking for old Barbie dolls. And we ran into NFL Quarterback Club 98 for the N64. Ooh. Like a $2 game marked at like $14. Like an absolutely insane markup. I mean, at that point, there's no point even looking anymore.
Right.
I'm, like I said, with this collection right now, I'm at a point where I think I'm either A, going to have to go to eBay and start paying eBay prices, or B, just accept that it's going to take 10 years for me to finish this collection.
Right.
I'm not in a major hurry, though. I mean, the fact that I got one half of every Nintendo 64 game released in North America, I feel like that's a really cool undertaking in its own, you know, merit. So I'm excited with what I have.
Probably, now that I think about it, the last real recent spree of sort of collector's mindset I had was back when I was living in Japan. Is anytime there was some limited edition Kirby thing, I would get out there and go grab it or stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense for you. If people don't know, Ricky is a massive Kirby fan.
I love him.
I'm shocked there's nothing Kirby in the background of this video right now.
Yeah, slightly out of frame, there's more Kirbys than you could ever count.
Okay, I trust you.
Yeah, I mean,
you go.
That took me 2 seconds. He's just chilling over here. We got that in New York.
Yeah, Nintendo New York, right?
Oh, wait, what? Here's another one. Where'd he come from? What? I could do this for a while. But I own every Kirby game because, like, that's, even if I didn't have the system at the time, I would get that. Like, before I ever had an NES, I had a copy of Kirby's Adventure. Stuff like that. When the year I was living in Japan was also the 25th anniversary year for Kirby.
Sure.
So there was so much stuff. So it was like every month I was going out to events or to stores and picking things up, and I came back with quite a lot. And I kind of kept it up a little bit with
Yeah.
importing, but there's a difference to me with going out and having the adventure of doing it and just putting in your address and ordering
Yeah.
it. Like, I think we've always called it like the hunt with respect to Amiibo.
Oh, for sure.
And yeah, there's just that sense of like going out there and be like, oh, there's a piranha plant, I gotta buy it. And just sitting at your computer like, okay, cool, my ice climbers will be here in 2 hours.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. It's such a different perspective thing. So
Yeah, it's the same thing with like this N64 collection.
Right.
If I'm lucky enough, like there was one case where I picked up 20 games in one day, and it was all at this one video game store that had like 50% off everything. So I went in there, I cleaned them out of every N64 game I was missing. And it was great. It was better than anything I ever bought online. The fact that I was at the store, I could see it, I could feel it, I could take it home right away. You know, it's finding it in the wild. I mean, that's half of the fun.
right. It gives you a story to tell. Nobody wants
Yeah.
to hear about, man, I ordered my Paper Mario and it arrived. It's like, so I got this as a gift and it made me really happy because they know what I'm into,
Yeah.
or I was able to clear out a store like you were just saying. I think that's half the fun of collecting right there, though, is being able to look at every piece and say like, oh yeah, this was something. Yeah, some of it's going to be like, yeah, that was part of a lot at some store, but the key pieces are going to have stories behind it.
Very true.
Yeah.
That's my N64 collection. So I needed to take some time today to kind of discuss that halfway point milestone. So thank you for bearing with me as I
have
go
to
through
ask,
my
though.
collecting craziness.
Talking about that collection, can you tell me your 5 favorite N64 games right here, right now?
Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Super Smash Brothers, and Banjo-Kazooie.
Not a bad
There
list,
you
and
go.
there's overlap with mine right there. So hey, that's something.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Conker is pretty close to the top of the list. There's
Okay.
something about like an M-rated Nintendo game with a squirrel with guns that's cursing, drinking beer. I mean, it's the perfect game. It really is.
There's just something about it.
There is. There really is.
And it's seeing it in that style versus like the Live and Reloaded style.
Yeah.
Which is why I think we're so excited at the idea of, hey, maybe Microsoft can bring Rare games to Switch.
I would be thrilled if that
Right,
happened.
because that gets us Conker, gets us both Banjos,
Yep.
gets us Jet Force Gemini, it gets us like a lot of. I mean, I don't think it'll get us GoldenEye because that's a rights thing.
Yeah.
But there's still
Perfect
potential
Dark.
there. Perfect Dark would be a good get, especially if we got the multiplayer too. Oh man, that would be a lot of fun. And then it goes even deeper than that, like to their older games. I don't think anybody wants Grabbed by the Ghoulies, but hey, there's potential for other stuff to come over.
Yeah, I guess
you never
so.
know. We could be playing Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts on the Nintendo system if we
Oh.
wanted to.
Donkey would love that.
Right.